Yeah, so Otuado has named his 29-man squad for Ghana's friendlies in September against Brazil and Nicaragua. And of course, anytime Black Stars call up are out, there's always some reservations from fans. That is perfectly understandable. But what we also need to understand is that when head coaches are naming squads, they consider to a very high regard their system and balance. If you know exactly what you are going to use or play on the field of play, that influences the type of players that you call. And we need to understand that first of all. So it's not just a collection of who is on form and who is scoring this and who is doing that. It's not just a gathering of superstars on form. It is about what elements can make the team succeed, or what elements can we bring together to form a very formidable team. And that is what head coaches look at. And so in as much as people may raise reservations to the squad, you also need to understand why some players are selected. There have been quite some reservations about the inclusion of Fatawu Issahaku. But with that, you also have to remember that when you look at the profile of wingers we have in this team, we do not have a left-footed right winger in this team. In fact, we don't have a left-footed winger, period, in this team. And that is an area of, in fact, in modern day football, it's become a very key attribute to have and a key profile of player to have in your team. So you can understand why a player like that is selected. And I always say this, look, you might not like the player. Yes, he can be, Fatawu Issahaku can be a bit frustrating, but if he was as bad as he's being made out to look like, he would not be at Sporting Lisbon. Sporting Lisbon is a top team in Europe. In Portugal, they are playing in the Champions League. If he was that bad, they will have no business looking at him. If you look at the profile of teams that were interested in him before he went to Sporting Lisbon, it can tell you that the big clubs out there can see something in the guy that most of us cannot see. So that in itself is testament to the fact that he is a very good player. I don't think head coaches just select players for selecting sake. As I said, systems and balance is very key. And the fact that he's a left-footed right winger. We just saw Manchester United pay 100 million euros for a left-footed right winger. It was just not a winger they wanted. They wanted a winger with that particular profile. And it shows you that that is a very key asset to have in modern day football. So until we get somebody or a left-footed right winger who we think is better than Fatawu Issahaku, then I think we should cool down, because the head coach knows exactly why he's choosing him. Another area that people have talked about, another person that people have talked about is Benjamin Tetteh. Now, if you go back to the top teams out there, when you are going into a competition, in as much as your system is also really important, there are some players with a certain profile that you cannot overlook. If you look at Spain in 2010, they took Fernando Llorente ahead of Roberto Soldado, who had scored more goals than him in the Spanish La Liga season. Llorente is of a certain profile. That target man, the guy who can hold that player up front, can bring in players into him. When you are going route one, he's the perfect asset to have in your team. You always need to have a player like this, because there will be situations that will arise during the course of the tournaments that will require a player like that. So it's not just about strikers and who is scoring more and who has scored more. They look at players who fit a certain profile. So that is why a player like that will be inside. Ghana doesn't have a player who fits that profile. And Benjamin Tetteh is doing a really good job. If you watched him at Hull City, if you watched him during his time at Turkey, he fits that profile perfectly. He's not somebody who is going to be quick and doing stepovers and doing the flashy stuff, no. But when it comes to the important bit, that aspect of or that particular thing that requires, when you are going route one and you need somebody who has that presence up top, he's the only guy that we have currently who can offer us that. So that's why somebody like him cannot be overlooked. He's so important to a squad setting going into a competition, and that's why I've given examples. You cannot overlook somebody like that. In the 2006 World Cup, we saw somebody like Peter Crouch also go. Darren Bent was left out. Yes, Darren Bent has scored a lot of goals that season, but in terms of the profile, Peter Crouch offered something different than what Darren Bent gave. And I'm saying that head coaches, managers, they look at all these things, because you need to plan for any uncertainty in a tournament setting. So you are going in with a group of players who fit your profile, and you're also going with players, those generic type of players. Look at somebody like Olivier Giroud in the front setup. He's not your most flashy forward, but he does the job for the head coach, and that's the job that is needed of him. So some of these things are things that we need to consider, and we need to trust the head coach. I don't think anybody wants to succeed more than the head coach himself. So we need to understand that he knows what he's doing. Yes, we all have our reservations, and some of these players will come down to discretion. Some of these call-ups will come down to discretion. You may want this certain player. He may feel that this certain player is better in his opinion. So I don't think it is fair to say by certainty somebody should be ahead of somebody, because first of all, we are not the technical team. We don't know what exactly he's going to use, and when it comes to players with a similar profile, it will always be down to discretion. So that's just it. Everybody has the right to have their reservations on the squad, but that's just my 2 cents on it.